In the quiet neighborhoods of Osaka, life moved in a regular way. Work, school, the changing seasons. The city's rhythm was gentle, almost predictable, as families prepared breakfast and children hurried off to school, their laughter echoing down narrow streets. It was a peaceful place, built on trust and respect. Neighbors greeted each other with polite bows, and the sense of community was strong. People felt safe, believing that nothing truly bad could ever happen here. But in the winter of 1998, a cold shadow crept in, silent and unseen. The air itself seemed to change, growing heavier as the sun set earlier and the nights stretched longer. The peace broke as fear took over, changing the city's very heart. Whispers began to spread, and the once familiar streets felt different, less welcoming, more uncertain. This was no ordinary bad guy. This was something much more scary. It was as if the darkness itself had taken shape, stalking the city's edges. The evil that came was careful, patient, and showed no mercy. It watched and waited, blending into the background, always just out of sight. It targeted innocent people, those just living their lives, ordinary men and women, students and shopkeepers. No one was truly safe. At first, people disappearing seemed like separate events, but a scary pattern appeared. The city's police struggled to connect the dots while families clung to hope that their loved ones would return. A killer was among them, a ghost leaving only sadness and quiet. The city's collective anxiety grew, as each new disappearance was met with more fear and confusion. The city held its breath, worry and dread growing with every news report. People locked their doors earlier, and the streets emptied long before midnight. The killer had no name, no face, just a presence. A monster made real. Rumors swirled, and the unknown became even more terrifying than the truth. He would come to be known as Isamu Zensune, a name forever linked to the darkness hidden beneath everyday life. His crimes would haunt Osaka for years to come, a chilling reminder that evil can hide in plain sight. To understand this case, we must step into the shadows where the monster was born. Only by facing the darkness can we hope to uncover the truth behind the terror that gripped the city and shattered its peace. Isamu Zensune was born in 1965 in a forgotten town near Fukuoka. His father was strict and distant, his mother worried and quiet. Isamu's childhood was marked by silence and being ignored, not violence. Alone in a joyless home, he went into his imagination, seeing himself as powerful and respected. At school, he was invisible, never picked on, just not noticed. Being alone made his anger and feeling of worthlessness grow. He watched others make friends from afar, always the outsider. As a teenager, he had no hobbies or friends, only dark comic books and violent movies for company. These stories fed his dreams of power and getting even. The seeds of violence were planted in the long, empty hours of a childhood without love. As an adult, Isamu moved to Osaka, a city pulsing with life and opportunity, yet he remained on the fringes, fitting in as a quiet office worker. The city's neon lights and endless crowds offered him anonymity, a place to disappear among millions. But beneath his calm exterior, something far darker was brewing. Outwardly, Isamu was polite, always on time, and never raised his voice. To his co-workers, he was just another face in the crowd. But inside, he hid a storm of violent thoughts and a growing sense of alienation. He didn't care about others, wanted to be in control, and saw people as mere objects, props in the story of his life, easily discarded. Years of feeling powerless and overlooked had twisted his mind, making him obsessed with being in charge. Every small rejection at work or in daily life, whether a missed promotion, a cold shoulder, or a simple slight, cut him deeply, festering into wounds that never healed. These moments became proof, in his mind, that the world was against him. Each minor insult or perceived disrespect fueled his belief that he was a victim of a cruel, uncaring world. His anger simmered, growing stronger with each passing day, and his violent fantasies became more vivid and detailed. He began to imagine scenarios where he could finally take control, where he could make others feel the pain he carried. Soon, these thoughts weren't enough. He started following people late at night, choosing those who seemed vulnerable, practicing his attacks in his mind. The line between thinking and doing blurred, and the thrill of planning began to outweigh the fear of consequences. The city that once offered him shelter now became his hunting ground. The quiet man in apartment 3B, who had always been invisible, was now ready to make the world see him, through violence. In the cold glow of his apartment, Isamu's mind was finally unraveled, and the darkness inside him was about to spill out into the world. The first victim was Akari Tanaka, a 20-year-old university student. On a November night in 1998, she walked home, not knowing of the shadow following her. Zensune had studied her daily routine, choosing her as his perfect target. His attack was quick and silent, his actions chillingly exact. He completely controlled his victims, taking away their identity before ending their lives. He spoke to them in a calm, unemotional voice, explaining what would happen to them. For Akari, her last hours were filled with unbelievable fear. Her body was found days later, shocking the community. The police were confused, no reason, no connection, a clean crime scene. For her family, the loss was heartbreaking. They couldn't know this was only the start. The shadow had tasted blood, and it was hungry for more. After Akari's murder, Osaka hoped it was a one-time tragedy. But Zensune struck again. Kenji Ito, a young mother, an elderly man, each chosen randomly. The randomness broke the city's feeling of safety. Anyone could be a victim. The killer enjoyed the hunt and capture, leaving no clues, only fear. He took small personal items from his victims, things to show his power. The city was filled with panic. The news called him the Osaka Shadow. Nightlife disappeared, and people hurried home before dark. The police were under huge pressure, but the killer was like a ghost. No fingerprints, no DNA, no witnesses. He moved unseen, his normal appearance perfect for hiding. Osaka's air was thick with fear. The monster could be anyone, anywhere. The city waited, terrified, for the next attack. The Osaka police formed a huge team, led by Chief Inspector Kaito Tanaka. The killer's lack of reason and physical evidence made the case almost impossible. The victims were strangers, their only link being their sad end. The police chased a ghost, getting more and more frustrated as days passed. The first clue came from old-fashioned police work. A witness remembered a dark car near a crime scene. Another witness remembered a similar car elsewhere. It was a tiny piece of information, but for Tanaka's team, it was hope. The investigation finally had a direction. The hunt for the Osaka Shadow became more intense. The clue of the dark car energized the police team. It was the first real lead in weeks, and for Inspector Tanaka, it was a spark in the darkness. The city had been gripped by fear, and every officer felt the weight of expectation. But Tanaka, more than anyone, felt a personal responsibility to bring the kidnapper to justice. Inspector Tanaka ordered a search of every similar car in Osaka, checking owners against crime scenes. The task was enormous, hundreds of vehicles, endless paperwork, and countless interviews. Still, Tanaka insisted on thoroughness, convinced that somewhere in the details, the truth was waiting to be found. The process was slow and tiring, but Tanaka never gave up. Night after night, he and his team pored over files, cross-referencing names and addresses, searching for any pattern that might reveal the suspect's identity. Fatigue set in, but Tanaka's determination only grew stronger. He became obsessed, going back to crime scenes and pushing his team to their limits. He retraced every step, replayed every moment, and questioned every assumption. The case consumed him, and his relentless drive inspired both admiration and concern among his colleagues. The big discovery came when they focused on owners with quiet, lonely lives. Tanaka realized the perpetrator might be someone who blended into the background, unnoticed by neighbors and colleagues alike. The team began to narrow their search, looking for men who lived alone and kept to themselves. Isamu Zensune's name stood out. No criminal record, living close to where the kidnappings happened. He was quiet, unremarkable, and had never drawn police attention before. But something about his profile matched the pattern Tanaka had pieced together. Tanaka's gut feeling told him this was their man. Years of experience had taught him to trust his instincts, and every detail pointed to Zensune. The detective felt a surge of anticipation. He was closer than ever. A surveillance team watched Zensune's boring daily routine. Day after day, he followed the same patterns, never doing anything suspicious. But Tanaka believed that beneath the surface, Zensune was hiding something dark. Some doubted, but Tanaka was patient. He urged his team to wait, to watch, and to trust the process. The tension in the squad room was palpable, but Tanaka's resolve never wavered. One night, Zensune drove to a faraway neighborhood and watched a bus stop. He was hunting. The team watched in silence, hearts pounding as the pieces finally began to fall into place. Tanaka knew with a chilling certainty they had found their shadow. The trap was closing and the long nights of obsession were about to pay off. The moment Zensune's hunting behavior was confirmed, Tanaka acted. Police arrested Zensune as he left for work. He showed no emotion, as if he expected them. In his super neat apartment, they found the victim's personal items, each carefully kept. The ghost finally had a name and a face. In questioning, Zensune confessed in a flat, emotionless voice. He described each murder with chilling clarity, showing no regret. He chose victims who seemed happy, angry at what he felt he'd been denied. Their only fault was being in his sight. Zensune saw his victims as objects, his confessions cold and analytical. For the detectives, the emptiness in his eyes was haunting. The nightmare was over, but the memory of such evil would stay. Zensune's capture brought relief to Osaka. The shadow was gone. He was tried, found guilty, and sentenced to death. For the public, justice was done and the city could start to heal. But for the victims' families, there was no real ending, only sadness and loss. Their pain was a quiet reminder of the true cost of such crimes. The case broke the idea of safety, starting talks about mental health and being alone. How could a man become so unnoticed, so disconnected? The story of Isamu Zensune remains a chilling chapter in Japanese crime. It is a memory to the innocent lives lost. Their memory stands as the strongest message against the darkness of the Osaka shadow.